Hey everyone, Dan here from Eco Combos with Dan. Here back again with Stuart Andrews from Borage Farms. We're actually checking out what he's doing here at the moment. So we got a bit of we talked a bit through the podcast. We were talking about your contours and why and wherefore. But it makes it a lot easier if we actually know what we're talking about. We can actually see it. Mate, can you talk us a bit through why and what you've got here and why you've done it?
Yeah, sure, Dan, no problem. So we have a contour. At the moment, our Australian landscape is losing at least 60 to 70% of the water that falls, the rainfall that falls on it runs off, because our vegetation has been minimised and our soils have become hard and compacted. So we build a simple little channel and a bank, and it helps manage that flow so that we get the water into the ground so it hydrates. So we buffer, we get a lot more resilience rather than going from one wet period into a drought.
So it's going to get in here, it's going to settle, and then actually just go out through.
Yeah,
through
so
the ground like that.
what it does is it changes the hydrology at this point. So right where we've got it here, we've got the contour, and then below it we've got our planting. So we've got our young food forest, and so the contour, when it captures the water and the fertility that's in the water, it feeds that through the root zones of those plants, which means they don't have to work as hard because it actually forces up into their roots. This is how the Australian landscape used to function.
So this makes it, you don't necessarily have to do it just for your plantings, for your garden, for your food forest or anything like that. You can actually be doing it in your paddocks as well.
No, well, this is how the Australian landscape used to function.
Yeah.
So when we introduced animals and we introduced agriculture, we had no understanding of this hydrologic process. So we now take how the Australian landscape used to function, and by using a simple structure like a contour, we can get that function going again. So our hydrology works. So we'll use it out on all of our landscapes. Doesn't matter where it is. And reconnecting our gullies, which have been eroded, back to the surrounding landscape.
So you can do that on a small scale too. So you can do that in your backyard as well. There's nothing stopping actually people out there to actually be able to do it themselves.
It's exactly the same. It's micro to macro. Whatever you build, you could build a floodplain in your backyard. No problem at all. So you put all of the functions of a floodplain in your backyard, and then you plant all of the vegetation accordingly. Exactly the same as you would if you went out onto 10, 20, 100 million acres. Doesn't matter.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but that's the Australian landscape. That's how it works.
All right, let's go and have a look at some chickens.
Yeah, no worries. No problem.
So Stuart, behind us we've got your hen houses here. So how is this different to where we would normally go to the shop and buy our eggs from or buy our chicken from?
Yeah, okay, so this is what we call a pastured operation, which means that, one, the houses are never locked up, so the birds are never locked away. They can always get access to the outdoors. As soon as the sun goes down, which it will be shortly, they'll be popping into their house to sleep for the night. So the other thing is that these houses are constantly moving. So twice a week we're moving these forward, which means the chickens get access to more of the paddock, more of the pasture, more of the grubs and all those sorts of things. Where if you go into your mainstream free range eggs, what the free range operation is, it's a fixed shed. The shed can't move, and the chickens get let out. And the other thing is that chickens get let out when the owner of that, or the person who's running that operation, feels they want to let the chickens out. So there are standards for how long the chickens need to be outdoors, which is only about 8 hours. So they don't need to be outdoors all the time. So
the free range idea that we know of is completely different.
Crap. So you think that you're paying because the birds are getting outside, but there's another part to it. In the shed is all their water and their feed. So there's actually not really a huge amount of incentive for the chicken to even go outside, because they feel more secure when they are in the shed because they got their water and their feed and they're comfortable.
And it's where they're used to as well.
That's right, it's where they're used to. So then what happens is most of the eggs are laid between sunup and 10 or 11 o'clock. So guess when the big guys open the doors? After 10 or 11 o'clock. So they're not losing any eggs outside. So with this operation, we do get a lot of losses because we'll get chickens that might lay out in the paddock and all of these things, so we've got to dispose of those eggs. so we can't use them. Now,
But that's going back into the ground too anyway, so it's actually working for your soil and working for your...
well, if they get broken, but we have to pick them up. So what we have to do is we have to pick the eggs up and we will compost those.
Okay.
So they have to be composted, then the compost can come back out into the paddock. So
That's right, okay.
they can't really stay out in the paddock. We have to, we have to pick them up. So every day you're out there picking up any ground eggs.
Yeah.
So that's the layer operation. If these were meat birds, our meat birds are over in another area. If they were the meat birds, they've got a house similar to that, a bit smaller, and those houses move twice a day. So there's a small number of birds in each house, and that house moves forward all the time. So that gives these birds access to more and more grass or whatever there might be, bugs and so forth.
Yep.
But it's also, like these, it's benefiting our pasture.
Yes.
So we're getting fertility, we're getting the activity of the chicken where it's scratching around, they'll eat parasites. So if we've had cattle in here and there's worm eggs through the manure of the cattle, then the chickens will go through and clean up that. They'll eat the larvae, so they break those cycles. So there's massive good.
So it is that cyclical process you're doing through between having your cattle, having your pigs, having your chickens, and then just the time spent resting in that paddock. So
That's right, yeah. And so with the meat birds, with the industrial or the free range model, once again, it's much like the layer bird operation, where the animal has a shed, a fixed shed, doesn't move anywhere, and then it gets opened out to the outdoors. Now, it's a little bit worse with the meat birds than it is with the layer birds in that they only, I think legally, depending on the operation, I think they only need to give them 4 hours of no light.
Wow.
So, that's a lot of the day that they have to spend walking around feeding so they grow rapidly.
Yes.
So it's about get them in, get them out. So you're looking at a life of a chicken, the average free range chicken that you buy has probably been alive for 5 weeks.
Wow.
So you think about that in the context of when you eat the next bit of chicken that, the whole chicken costs you $6.
Yeah.
That thing's probably been alive for 4 or 5 weeks, that's about it.
So what different lifespan sort of stuff for here?
Yeah, well look, some of it's genetics. So the genetics limit the lifespan because the birds are predominantly made to grow fast, but our birds would be 7 to 8 weeks probably. So you've got that extension of a few weeks. But what we would like to do in the future, we can't do it right now because it's just not possible, but to be able to breed a bird that can live outdoors, but to do it, it's got to be able to eat less. Because if it eats the volume that they're eating now, the price of the bird is out of most people's ability to buy.
Yes.
But the other thing about the shedded or the free range type of operation is that there are a lot of deaths. A lot of birds die. They grow so fast that their heart explodes, so they have a heart attack and they die. And this is happening all the time. And a shed might have 20 or 30,000 birds in it. One shed. So one of our houses has 40 birds in it. So
and once again, they can come and go as they please too.
Yeah, that's right. But we have to deal with the predators. So we've got predators where I guess when they're in the shed, they haven't got to worry about predators. So I guess it's a bit easier for production. Maybe it's better for the bird. I don't know. But the side benefit is how good it is for the landscape.
Yes.
And that's what's important. We need to have these operations where they are benefiting the landscape and the climate, not deteriorating it.
Yes.
So when you've got a big fixed shedded operation, there's manure that has to be taken out. So when the birds have done their 5 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it is, the manure gets taken out. That has to go somewhere and something has to happen to it.
Yeah.
It's volatilizing and there's nitrogen moving up, ammonia going up into the atmosphere and carbon disappearing. So there's all of these negatives to it.
So you're looking at the idea of rather than necessarily being a poultry farmer or a pig farmer, you're a soil farmer.
Yeah, or we're a plant farmer actually.
Plant farmer,
So not even soil, and there's too much focus even on soil, and soil is at the end of a process. Soil forms what plants do to it, plants and biology. So that's where we should be starting, not even soil. But yes, we are landscape focused. So our animals are all about building the landscape, making it better. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Hey, big. Hey, big. Hey, big pigs. Hey, big pigs. Hey, piggies.
So Stuart, what's the difference between what you're doing here and and what you might see on more other commercial properties?
Well, you've either got a shedded system where the animals are completely locked in a shed all the time, or a barn type arrangement, or you've got a free range. And a free range means that the animals have got room to move around, but they don't necessarily have anything else to eat, because very quickly it becomes dirt.
Yes.
So generally that rotation is maybe once every 2 years, or maybe at best once every 12 months they might move from paddock to paddock.
Yeah.
So within a very short period of time, there's nothing else in there. So what we do is our animals are constantly moving. So they're always on a rotation, which means there's plenty of rest behind them for the plants to regrow. And as you can see through this paddock, there's a whole lot of diversity. There's a whole lot of plants in there that a lot of farmers would spend their time eliminating.
Yes.
But it's those plants which add the extra goodies for the pigs, or whatever animal it might be. They'll nibble on that because they know more about their health than we do.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to self-treat. So they'll eat what they need. If they need to dig up, they want to get a grub or something in the ground, then they can dig for that. All of those things they can do because they are constantly being moved all the time. Yeah, so that's probably the key difference. And that stands out in one, because the animals are moving around all the time, so they build much more muscle.
Yep.
But it puts a whole different flavour into the meat, and good amount of fat in there.
Yeah.
Which really gives the pork a hell of a lot better flavour than. I mean, before we started running pigs, I think we probably would have been lucky if we ate pork twice a year.
Yeah.
We would have ham at Christmas and maybe a roast once a year. And I guess that was because we didn't really like it that much. A bit of crackling was nice every now and then, but not too much. Now I can't stop eating it.
I've had your pork plenty of times before now, and it is absolutely phenomenal. You can definitely taste the differences. No more store-bought rubbish.
No, and it's obviously all of those things are going to be better for the animals. So the animal's got a much better life. It still has one bad day, but one bad day is better than 50 or 60 bad days.
Absolutely. So, they're looking extremely happy now.
Well, they're pretty happy.
Yeah, we're having a bit of a kick around there.
Yeah.